There comes a time when a woman doesn't just survive, she stands. There comes a season when she no longer bows to fear, no longer bends under pressure, and no longer lets evil write her story. She is marked, she is chosen, and she is covered by a protection the world cannot explain. There's a shield around her that doesn't come from money, status, or people. It comes from heaven itself. Evil may try to break her, but it cannot. Darkness may try to intimidate her, but it fails. She is untouchable because she is wrapped in divine power. And today, I want to show you the 7 undeniable signs that prove when a woman is untouchable by evil. There is a certain strength that is only revealed when the fire comes, when the heat is turned up, when everything around her says she should collapse, and yet she keeps standing. She walks through situations that would have left others destroyed, and still she holds her head high. The fire comes to consume, to reduce, to leave nothing behind, but she emerges carrying not the scent of smoke, but the fragrance of endurance. Her very survival becomes a testimony that evil tried, but it did not win. When people look at her, they can't even see the residue of what she endured, because her protection was greater than the flames. The fire represents seasons of loss, heartbreak, betrayal, or unexpected attacks that aim to leave her in ashes. But somehow, instead of being consumed, she is refined. She goes through the intensity of the flame, but comes out with a glow that cannot be explained by human logic. She doesn't carry the bitterness that others expect. She doesn't carry the wounds that should have marked her. She doesn't carry the despair that normally follows such pain. Instead, she emerges stronger, wiser, and filled with a new depth of grace. The fire exposes her resilience and reveals that she carries a covering that shields her from the damage evil intended. What amazes those who watch her life is not just that she survived, but how she survived. It's not that the battle didn't touch her, it's that it didn't break her. Evil may have pushed her into the fire, but the fire became her training ground. Others look at her and expect to see scars, but they see strength. They expect to hear complaints, but they hear wisdom. They expect defeat, but they witness triumph. She becomes living proof that protection isn't about avoiding the fire, but walking through it untouched by its power to destroy. When she walks through fire, she doesn't allow it to define her identity. Too many people let pain become their permanent label, but she refuses to be reduced to her struggle. She may acknowledge the fire, but she doesn't let it name her. She may admit the pain, but she doesn't let it shape her destiny. That's why she doesn't smell like smoke, because she refuses to let her past cling to her present. She chooses to carry forward wisdom, not the weight of what tried to consume her. The absence of smoke on her life is a sign of supernatural preservation. You can go through something, and people won't even believe you went through it, because the evidence is missing. There are women who faced battles in silence, endured heartbreak behind closed doors, and stood strong when no one was cheering them on. And yet when others encounter them, they see beauty, dignity, and strength, not the ashes of their struggle. That's the difference between going through something alone and going through it covered. Evil wanted to leave scars, but preservation erased the evidence. Every fire she endured becomes fuel for her testimony. She can stand before others and say, I walked through betrayal, but it didn't define me. I faced rejection, but it didn't stop me. I encountered opposition, but it didn't break me. Her story inspires because she is not the product of her pain. She is the product of her protection. The very fact that she still smiles, still loves, still stands, is evidence that she was carried through flames designed to burn her life down. She carries not the smell of smoke, but the scent of grace. The fire also purifies. While evil meant it for destruction, the flame burns away fear, insecurity, and dependence on the wrong things. She comes out of the fire with clarity she didn't have before. The people who didn't belong in her life are gone. The distractions that weighed her down are removed. The doubts that limited her have been consumed. Evil thought the fire would weaken her, but it actually stripped away everything unnecessary and left her standing in strength and focus. Walking through fire reveals who is truly untouchable. When evil tests her, the fire proves that her foundation is unshakable. She may bend under the pressure, but she doesn't break. She may cry in the flames, but she doesn't collapse. She may feel the heat, but she is never consumed. Her untouchable nature is not in her ability to avoid battles, but in her ability to emerge from them without being marked by defeat. She is refined, not ruined. Those who watch her journey begin to realize that her strength cannot be explained by her alone. There is something greater at work, something guarding her, something shielding her. Because the truth is, fire doesn't let you walk out without marks. Yet she comes out without the smell of smoke. People cannot explain it, but they cannot deny it. Evil cannot understand it, but it cannot stop it. The fire becomes the stage for her protection to be displayed in undeniable ways. Every time she steps out of a fire untouched, it builds a legacy. She becomes a voice of encouragement for others still in the flames. A living example that survival is possible, that victory is available, that evil does not have the final word. She may never know how many people draw strength from her story, but the evidence is there. She carries herself with dignity, walks with confidence, and speaks with authority because she knows she has been preserved. She has walked through fire, but doesn't smell like smoke. There is a kind of peace that cannot be bought, cannot be faked, and cannot be shaken no matter how loud the storms rage around her. She carries that kind of peace deep within, and it shows up most when life tries to rob her of it. While others panic under pressure, she remains steady. While others lose sleep in the midnight hour, she rests because her peace is not rooted in circumstances. It is anchored in something greater. Evil may come with noise, chaos, and confusion, but she stands with calm assurance. That calmness is her shield, and no matter how much darkness surrounds her, her light does not flicker. This peace is not passive. It is powerful. It does not mean she ignores problems or pretends challenges don't exist. It means she chooses not to surrender her inner stability to what she cannot control. She can walk into environments filled with tension and still carry herself with grace. She can sit in the middle of uncertainty and yet not be paralyzed by fear. Evil tries to disturb her mind with worry, to overwhelm her heart with anxiety, but it fails. What she carries is untouchable because it was never given by man, and therefore no one can take it away. Peace shows up in the way she responds to trouble. Instead of rushing to fight every battle, she discerns which ones are even worth her energy. She doesn't waste time proving herself to people who don't understand her. She doesn't exhaust herself trying to win arguments that don't matter. She knows her peace is too valuable to be spent recklessly. That's why when she moves with clarity. When she speaks with wisdom. When she stands with assurance. Her peace becomes her compass, guiding her steps when emotions would have led her astray. This peace also guards her relationships. Where there could be division, she brings unity. Where there could be conflict, she brings calm. People may wonder how she keeps her composure when others lash out, misunderstand, or even betray her. It's because her peace is not based on people's behavior. It is based on something deeper. She refuses to give control of her heart to those who are trying to steal her joy. Her ability to remain at rest, even when others are restless, is a sign that she is covered. Evil hates her peace because it cannot penetrate it. Confusion feeds on fear, but when fear has no place to land, chaos loses its grip. That is why she can sit in silence without being tormented by worry. That is why she can smile even in seasons of uncertainty. That is why she can wake up with gratitude, while others wake up with dread. Peace becomes her protection, a shield around her mind and her emotions. Even when evil launches distractions, she refuses to allow them to live rent-free in her heart. Her peace is also contagious. People around her may come in with heavy hearts, but after spending time with her, they leave lighter. They may enter conversations weighed down by stress, but her calmness makes them believe things will work out. She doesn't always have to say much. Sometimes just her presence speaks louder than words. Her peace is not just for her, it overflows onto everyone connected to her. That's why she becomes a safe space for others. Her steadiness gives others courage to believe that storms don't last forever. The truth is, peace is tested most in the fire. When everything is going well, peace is easy. But when the diagnosis comes, when the finances tighten, when the betrayal cuts deep, that's when peace proves its strength. And she has proven it time and time again. She has been through nights that should have broken her, but she held on. She has faced storms that should have drowned her, but she kept standing. She has endured seasons where she should have lost her mind, but instead she found a deeper rest. That is not natural. That is divine protection. She refuses to let worry write the script of her life. While others replay worst-case scenarios in their minds, she rehearses hope. While others obsess over what could go wrong, she prepares for what could go right. While others are consumed by fear of the unknown, she rests in the fact that she is already covered. This mindset keeps her steady while others stumble. It keeps her balanced while others spiral. Evil cannot touch her because she refuses to let it occupy her thoughts. Peace also gives her strength for the future. She doesn't walk into tomorrow weighed down by yesterday. She doesn't drag yesterday's pain into a new day. She doesn't let the mistakes of the past steal the joy of the present. Her peace allows her to wake up renewed, to face challenges with fresh energy, to believe that new mercies are waiting for her each morning. That's why she doesn't live bitter. She lives better. That's why she doesn't walk with heaviness. She walks with hope. Her peace sustains her when strength runs out. What makes her truly untouchable is not that she avoids problems, but that problems cannot rob her of what matters most. Evil can attack her health, her finances, her relationships, but it cannot steal her peace. That unshakable calm is what keeps her untouchable, because no weapon of chaos can thrive where peace already reigns. She becomes an unmovable force in a world filled with shifting shadows, carrying a stillness that no storm can uproot. There are moments in life when unseen dangers lurk just beyond the corner, and yet somehow those doors never swing open for her. She may not even realize how close she came to stepping into destruction, but something always blocks the way. What others see as rejection or denial, she later recognizes as protection. Not every door is meant to be walked through, and she has learned that sometimes the greatest blessing is not in what opens, but in what remains closed. Those doors of destruction, whether it be relationships that would have drained her, opportunities that would have trapped her, or paths that would have broken her, are shut tight before she even has the chance to step into them. Evil loves to bait with false opportunities. It dresses traps as blessings, paints dangers as delights, and disguises losses as gains. Yet when she comes near those doors, they refuse to open. What looks like disappointment in the moment is actually divine protection from devastation. She might weep over what she thought she wanted, but later, with hindsight, she rejoices that the door did not give way. That locked door becomes a testimony that she was spared from a path that would have been too costly. She doesn't just see closed doors as rejection anymore. She sees them as shields. This protection shows up in relationships too. There are people she wanted to let close, but suddenly things didn't work out. Conversations ended. Connections faded. What felt like loss was actually redirection. For behind those relationships were hidden agendas, silent betrayals, or unspoken harm. The door slammed shut before she could be caught in their web. Evil tried to weave her into destructive patterns, but the lock clicked before it was too late. She might have questioned why certain people walked away, but looking back, she sees she was rescued by a shut door. In her career or calling, she has also witnessed doors shut that didn't make sense at first. She prepared, she applied, she worked, and still the opportunity didn't come. It wasn't because she wasn't qualified. It was because the path would have led her into compromise, corruption, or burnout. That no preserved her future, yes. It protected her destiny from being tangled in assignments that weren't aligned with her purpose. Every shut door in her life has not been a setback, but a setup for a better and safer way forward. Sometimes the most dangerous doors are the ones that look the most appealing. Evil knows how to dress destruction in glitter. It can make the wrong person look right, the wrong deal look irresistible, the wrong timing look perfect. Yet something always intervenes for her. Schedules misalign, details fall through, peace disappears, and the door never opens. She doesn't always understand it in the moment, but deep down she knows she was spared. What others chase after recklessly, she has been blocked from by divine design. She also realizes that some doors are closed, not because of what's behind them, but because of what's ahead for her. The wrong doors would have kept her distracted, stuck, or delayed. But because they closed, she remains positioned for the right path. Evil wanted her stuck in cycles, repeating mistakes, or trapped in wasted time. But by shutting those doors, her future remains intact. She doesn't lose years wandering halls that lead to nowhere. Instead, her path is preserved for the places where she is meant to thrive. This kind of protection often goes unnoticed until later. She looks back over her life and remembers moments of heartbreak, moments of disappointment, moments of confusion. But when the pieces come together, she sees how close she came to walking into destruction. A bad deal avoided, a wrong relationship escaped, a harmful trap unseen. She realizes she has been protected more than she ever knew. Every closed door whispers of a danger she never had to face. What makes this protection powerful is that evil doesn't stop trying. It keeps building new doors, new traps, new distractions. But none of them can prosper against her. Each time, the handle won't turn, the hinges won't move, the threshold won't give way. She may knock in frustration, but heaven has already decided she won't walk through that way. She doesn't even need to see what's on the other side. The locked door is enough proof that it was never for her. Even when she feels delayed by closed doors, she is still being protected. The timing of her life is preserved by these barriers. She is kept from rushing into things that would have drained her strength or stolen her joy. The shut doors are not punishment, they are pauses of preservation. They buy her time, they save her energy, they redirect her focus. Evil wants her exhausted from chasing everything, but closed doors keep her aligned with only what matters. At the end of the day, she realizes that doors of destruction are never allowed to open against her. Evil can build them, it can decorate them, it can even push her close to them. But they will not open. What others walk through and are destroyed by, she is shielded from. She is covered not only in what she receives, but also in what she is spared from. And though she may not always understand it in the moment, the shut doors in her life are some of the loudest proofs that she is untouchable. There is something powerful about a woman who sees what others miss. Her discernment is not built on natural wisdom alone, but on a deeper sense that comes from within. While others are fooled by appearances, she sees beyond the surface. Evil may try to disguise itself in charm, opportunity, or smooth words, but she has a radar that picks up the hidden motives and secret traps. This kind of discernment is not learned in books or classrooms. It is sharpened through experience, prayer, and staying aligned with truth. She doesn't have to always explain how she knows. She just knows. And that knowing has spared her from countless dangers. When the enemy whispers lies, she can recognize the tone. It may sound convincing to everyone else, but to her, it's off-key. She has been trained to recognize the counterfeit. Evil often tries to slip in unnoticed, planting seeds of doubt, fear, or temptation, but she identifies it before it takes root. Her discernment is like a spiritual alarm system that alerts her when something is wrong. She may not always see the full picture, but she sees enough to know when not to step forward. Others may question her hesitation, but time proves she was right to wait. This discernment also protects her relationships. Not everyone who smiles is a friend, and not every handshake is genuine. She can feel when someone's intentions don't line up with their words. What others fall for, she resists, because her spirit senses what's really happening. There are times when she has walked away from connections that look promising on the outside, but something in her warned her not to proceed. Later, she discovers that her discernment spared her from betrayal, manipulation, or heartbreak. She knows not to ignore that inner voice, for it has been her shield more times than she can count. Her discernment doesn't just expose enemies outside, it also reveals the subtle attacks within. She can recognize when her own thoughts are being influenced by fear or negativity. Instead of letting those thoughts control her, she identifies them and replaces them with truth. She is not easily deceived by the lies of insecurity or self-doubt, where others spiral into discouragement. She sees the strategy behind it and fights back. The enemy's greatest tactic is often to attack the mind, but her discernment doesn't let him sneak past unnoticed. This gift also gives her foresight. She can sense when something is not right even before it manifests. Evil might try to hide in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike, but she sees the shadow move. She picks up on the warning signs, the small details that others ignore. That intuition positions her to be one step ahead, not one step behind. It keeps her from being blindsided, because she is not walking blindly. Her path may not be easy, but she walks it with open eyes. Discernment doesn't always make her popular. Sometimes people don't understand why she doesn't embrace every opportunity or every person. They may label her cautious or even suspicious. But she knows that protecting her destiny requires discernment, and she refuses to apologize for guarding her life. Evil counts on people being naive, but she refuses to be an easy target. Her discernment sets boundaries that others don't see the need for, but those same boundaries preserve her peace, her purpose, and her progress. In moments of conflict, Her discernment also exposes the true source of the battle. She doesn't waste energy fighting people because she knows the real fight is spiritual, while others get caught up in anger or bitterness toward individuals. She sees the enemy behind the scenes. That clarity allows her to fight with wisdom instead of wasting strength in the wrong places. Evil wants her distracted, but her discernment keeps her focused on the real target. She doesn't just react emotionally, she responds with strategy. This discernment is not something she flaunts, but it is something she leans on constantly. It allows her to navigate environments where deception is thick, yet she remains untouched. She doesn't fall for the traps that are designed to lure her in. Even when evil cloaks itself in light, she can detect the darkness beneath. She recognizes the difference between what is good and what only looks good. That sharpness of spirit is what keeps her from making decisions that would derail her future. Her discernment also empowers others. When she speaks, people realize she saw things they didn't. She can point out dangers they overlooked, patterns they ignored, and motives they couldn't read. Her ability to expose the enemy doesn't just protect her, it protects those connected to her. Evil hates her voice because it reveals the strategies it wants to keep hidden. She has a way of shining light in dark places, and once exposed, the enemy loses its grip. Ultimately, her discernment is her weapon. She doesn't need to fight every battle with her fists when she can fight with her foresight. The enemy cannot succeed against her because he cannot deceive her. She walks with clarity, she moves with wisdom, and she sees with insight that cannot be explained by human reasoning. That is why she cannot be easily trapped. Every time evil thinks it has her cornered, her discernment uncovers the plan before it can unfold. What was meant to stop her only pushes her forward. Every attack that comes against her ends up becoming the very thing that accelerates her growth. When the enemy designs a situation to break her, it becomes the training ground that builds her strength. She doesn't just endure hardship, she transforms it into fuel. What should have left her bitter instead makes her wiser. What should have left her stuck instead gives her momentum. The attacks that were designed to destroy her end up becoming the stepping stones to her next level. There are times when the opposition rises like a wave, meant to drown her, but instead it lifts her higher. The more resistance she faces, the more resilient she becomes. She learns to bend but never break, to adapt but never quit. Each strike she endures is another reminder that she is tougher than the circumstances trying to hold her back. What could have silenced her voice only makes her speak louder. What could have ended her story only writes a new chapter filled with victory. The enemy's strategy is always subtraction, taking peace, joy, confidence, or progress. But for her, subtraction turns into multiplication. Losing one thing opens the door for greater things to come. A closed opportunity becomes the reason she discovers something bigger. A betrayal reveals where true loyalty lies. A setback forces her into an environment where she flourishes even more. What seemed like an attack against her destiny actually pushes her closer to it. When the storm rages, she doesn't just survive it, she comes out with treasures she didn't have before. Attacks bring out hidden strength, hidden wisdom, and hidden endurance. She learns lessons she never would have learned if life had always been smooth. She gains authority in areas she never had before. The very pain that was supposed to weaken her equips her to lead others through the same trials. She doesn't walk out empty-handed. She carries new tools, new confidence, and new depth. Even the wounds she carries turn into weapons. What once caused her tears becomes the story that inspires others. What once left her broken becomes the testimony that heals those around her. The attack loses its power because she refuses to let it define her. Instead, she redefines it. She doesn't just endure what happens, she transforms it into a blessing. What was designed to be a pit becomes a platform. What was intended to silence her becomes the reason others listen to her even more closely. The beauty of her resilience is that the enemy cannot predict the outcome. He plans for destruction, but every plan backfires. The very trap set for her becomes the place of her triumph. Instead of staying in despair, she rises in determination. Instead of shrinking back in fear, she moves forward in courage. She does not remain where the attack tried to pin her down. She takes that place of pain and turns it into progress. The more she is pressed, the more she produces. Attacks reveal what she is made of. Fire only refines gold, and pressure only forms diamonds. The intensity of the attacks proves the greatness of her assignment. She understands that attacks don't come against the weak. They come against those with purpose. And since her life carries purpose, she expects resistance, but she also expects advancement. She knows that the heavier the attack, the greater the promotion that follows. She does not dread opposition, because she has learned to recognize it as a sign of where she is going next. She carries the ability to turn pain into power. Every insult fuels her determination. Every betrayal teaches her discernment. Every rejection pushes her toward better connections. The enemy cannot win because no attack can leave her the same. She grows, she expands, and she rises stronger every single time. Nothing is wasted in her journey. Even the darkest nights give her wisdom that lights her future. What was designed to hold her back often ends up positioning her forward faster than she expected. She walks through storms only to find herself further along than she thought she would be. She faces opposition only to realize it unlocked doors she didn't even know were there. Attacks may cause temporary pain, but they also release permanent progress. She doesn't remain where the attack finds her. She moves forward higher and deeper than before. Every attack becomes a testimony of her advancement. People who watch her see that nothing can keep her down for long. They see that setbacks only launch her forward. They see that adversity cannot hold her captive. Her life is marked by this undeniable truth. What comes against her cannot stop her, because every attack ultimately becomes the very reason she rises stronger and moves into greater levels of purpose and destiny. She discovers that favor shows up in the most unexpected places, where logic says she shouldn't be noticed, yet somehow she stands out. People who don't even know her name are moved to open doors for her. Opportunities arise in environments where she seems underqualified, overlooked, or even out of place. Yet the very place where she doesn't belong becomes the place where she is elevated. Her story proves that favor is not about connections or status. It is about divine placement. What others strive to achieve through influence, she receives through alignment with something greater than herself. There are moments when she enters a room where no one is on her side, yet someone speaks up for her without reason. She doesn't beg for recognition or chase approval. It finds her, even in hostile spaces, where envy and competition run deep. She becomes the exception. The hands that were raised against her are redirected to help her. The same people who doubted her ability end up recommending her name. This is the mystery of favor. It works in silence, arranging things on her behalf long before she arrives. Favor has a way of bypassing protocol. Where others must wait in line, she is invited to the front. Where others hear no, she receives a yes. Systems and structures that normally restrict become flexible in her case. It is not because she manipulated her way in, but because a greater hand positioned her there. Favor is not fair by human standards. It breaks rules and overrides expectations. She is living proof that even in places where she shouldn't have access, she gains it with ease. The beauty of her journey is that she doesn't depend on the favor of people. She trusts the source of her favor. That's why she is not shaken when certain doors close or when certain individuals refuse to support her. She understands that her advancement is not limited to the willingness of people. If one person says no, another will say yes. If one door shuts, another opens. And sometimes, the very rejection she faced becomes the reason she's redirected to a greater opportunity she never would have imagined. Even in environments designed to harm her, she finds unexpected allies. People who once opposed her change their stance without explanation. Strangers become advocates, offering resources, wisdom, or connections she never sought. This shows that her life is not governed by circumstance, but by a greater orchestration. Where there should be only resistance, she finds refuge. Where there should be lack, provision appears. Where there should be rejection, honor shows up. The favor she carries is not just for her benefit. It blesses others around her. Those connected to her find themselves walking in opportunities they never would have touched otherwise. Her presence shifts environments. A workplace prospers because she's there. A family line advances because she carries a blessing that pours into every generation. This is why unlikely places open up for her. She carries something too powerful to be confined. At times, she looks back and realizes that her biggest breakthroughs didn't come from where she expected. They came from places she least imagined. A conversation she thought insignificant turned into a life-changing connection. A room she thought she didn't belong in became the launch pad for her next season. Favor doesn't need her to force or fabricate. It simply aligns her steps with the right people and the right timing. She has learned to walk into every space with confidence, not because she knows what will happen, but because she trusts that favor goes before her. Even when she is underestimated, overlooked, or ignored, she doesn't shrink. She carries herself with quiet strength, because she knows that the unseen is working for her. She doesn't compete with others for what belongs to her, because what is hers cannot be denied. Every season of her life carries evidence that favor does not depend on conditions. Whether she is in a place of abundance or scarcity, she finds unexpected provision. Whether she is surrounded by friends or enemies, she receives support from unlikely sources. This consistency shows that favor follows her, not based on where she is, but based on who she is. Even deserts produce rivers when she walks through. Even closed places make room for her arrival. Her journey testifies that favor will always find her, no matter the place, no matter the odds, no matter the opposition. And the more unlikely the place, the greater the reminder that she is being carried by something beyond her own strength or effort. She has faced seasons where life knocked her down so hard that many thought she would never rise again. The weight of loss, betrayal, failure, and disappointment could have buried her. Yet every time, she finds strength to get up. What others see as the end of her story becomes the beginning of another chapter. Each fall refines her, deepens her, and makes her stronger than before. She doesn't just rise to where she was. She rises higher because every setback carries within it a setup for greater purpose. When she stumbles, she does not stay in the dirt. She may cry, she may feel broken, but she never allows defeat to write her story. Something inside of her refuses to quit. Her resilience becomes a weapon that evil cannot conquer. The very things that should have destroyed her only awaken a deeper fire within her. Every scar she carries becomes a reminder that she survived what others thought would finish her. Her strength is not the absence of struggle, but the refusal to let struggle define her. She knows that falling is a part of the journey, but staying down is a choice she will never make. Each time she rises, she carries new wisdom, new perspective, and new confidence. The fall may bruise her, but it never breaks her spirit. She has learned that the ground is not her dwelling place. It is the place where she gathers her strength to rise again. What makes her rise so powerful is that she rises differently than before. She does not come back bitter, but better. She does not return empty, but equipped. Every fall teaches her something she could not have learned on the mountaintop. She discovers hidden strengths she never knew she had. She learns patience, endurance, and the ability to stand even when everything around her is shaking. Falling becomes part of her refining, and rising becomes her testimony. People around her marvel at her resilience. They see her face challenges that would have crushed others, yet she emerges standing tall. They cannot explain how she does it. But the truth is, she is fueled by something greater than her circumstances. Every fall becomes a stage for her comeback. Every defeat turns into a platform for her victory. She is not defined by how many times she falls, but by how many times she refuses to stay down. There are moments when she rises quietly, without announcement. No one sees the nights she cried, the hours she prayed, or the strength it took to take that first step forward. But her rising is not for show. It is her way of declaring that no fall has the power to end her story. She may bend, but she does not break. She may stumble, but she does not surrender. She may be delayed, but she is never denied. Each fall becomes part of her preparation for something greater. When she rises, she is more compassionate, more discerning, and more unshakable. The lessons she gathers in the valley become the wisdom she uses on the mountaintop. She rises not only for herself, but for others watching her. Her comeback gives hope to those who are weary. Her rise whispers to others, if she can get up again, so can you. Her enemies often celebrate when she falls, thinking the story is over. Yet they underestimate her ability to rise. What they meant for harm becomes the very soil that grows her strength. Every time she gets up, she defies the odds, silences doubt, and reminds the world that she is untouchable by defeat. She doesn't just rise for herself. Her rising disrupts the plans of those who thought they had won. Her rising is not always immediate, but it is always certain. Even when it takes time, even when the climb back feels long, she refuses to accept permanent defeat. She knows that delay is not denial, and she keeps pressing forward until she stands again. Her story is a cycle of rising, each time stronger, wiser, and more unshakable than before. Her life proves that falling is not failure, but fuel for rising. The more she is knocked down, the higher she climbs. The more she is pushed back, the further she advances. Every rise becomes a declaration that nothing can keep her down, no matter how many times she falls. A woman like this isn't ordinary. She doesn't live by chance. She lives by covering. She doesn't walk in fear. She walks in fireproof faith. Evil has limits when it comes to her life, because she carries a shield that cannot be penetrated. And when you see these 7 signs, you'll know she is chosen, she is guarded, and she is untouchable.